Assalamu alaikum. My name is Samaru. I hold a master's degree in English Literature and Linguistics, which I completed from Namal in 2009. During my studies, I also studied TEFL, which is basically teaching English as a foreign language as a core subject in my master's. If I talk about my teaching experience, so basically I have an experience of teaching both in physical classes and in online class. In physical classes, I used to teach grade 9 and 10. And for the past 1 year, I have been teaching in an online school and I'm teaching the middle section. If I talk about my online teaching proficiency, so basically I'm proficient in conducting online classes via Zoom. And I'm also very confident in managing the class, managing virtual classes effectively. And I'm also good in conducting online assessments. So today I'm going to present a demo lecture on the topic of phrases and clauses for SSC English Federal Board. And I hope you are going to enjoy my lecture. So I start with my demo lecture. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ربي اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Assalamu alaikum, my dear students. I hope you all are fine and you are doing good. Today we are going to learn about phrases and clauses, and the concept of these phrases and clauses, they are very interesting. It is very interesting and it is also very important. When I say it is very interesting, what do I mean by this? I mean that these phrases and clauses, they are basically called the building blocks of a sentence. For one moment, I would like all of you to imagine the bricks in your mind. So, when there are a lot of bricks, so what do you think? What is the purpose of all those bricks? Obviously, you combine all those bricks together and you construct a beautiful building using those bricks. So, in the English language, these phrases and these clauses, in simple words, they act as bricks. You combine these phrases and clauses together to construct a well structured sentence. And the well-structured sentence, it ultimately leads to a well-structured text. Okay. First thing, it helps you to write a well-structured sentence. And second thing is, obviously, when you get to know the chunks in a sentence, it ultimately leads to you to develop the good comprehension skills. So from both point of view, the understanding of these phrases and clauses is very important, and this is the topic of our today's lesson. Okay, students. So uh, before actually starting a lesson, it is very important to get to know that what basically we are going to achieve from today's lesson. So basically, there are three things which you will get to know by the end of this lesson. And these objectives are, first of all, the knowledge, the understanding, and then the application. After today's lesson, you people will get the knowledge about the phrases and clauses, and you people will be able to define these two terms in your own words. Second thing is you will get the understanding of these two terms. What is the difference between the phrase and clause? And you people will be able to tell that difference by using the technique of telling it by the subject and the verb. And the last but not the least, the application, which is very important. Once you get to know the knowledge and then you have the understanding, so the third thing which comes is basically applying that knowledge to the real world situation. So by the end of this lesson, you people will be able to apply the knowledge into real world situations. Okay. So if I move forward, so I would like all of you to start with a warm-up activity. Okay, so there are basically two groups in front of you, the group A and group B. I'm giving you few seconds. Just focus on these two groups and you people will tell me what you have noticed in these two groups. Yes, what you have noticed is that in group A, there are just the combination of the words. Some chunks of words are there in the classroom after the final exam, but no meaning is conveyed, no sense is there. But whereas when the words are combined together in a group B, they are all together conveying a whole meaning and a whole sense is there. The students are learning and she is reading a book. So this is basically our target of today. We are going to understand why the words in group A are like this and why the words in group B are like in a sentence form. Okay, so next we are going to look into. Yes, obviously, what you have noticed is that these are basically, I would just like to tell you, these senseless combination of words, these are basically called the phrases, and these sentences, they are basically called the clauses. And these both concepts, the phrases and clauses, we are going to discover them in detail in next slides. Okay, so we start with a phrase. What is a phrase? Okay, if you just focus on the examples in the classroom after the final exam, a beautiful garden, what you have noticed, you may have noticed this thing, that the subject and the verb all together are missing in these sentences, and obviously they are not expressing a complete idea. So this is basically the definition of phrase. A phrase is a group of words that does not have a subject and a verb together and does not express a complete idea. So when the subject is missing, so when a verb is missing and it does not express a complete idea, so the key point is that a phrase cannot stand alone as a sentence. So if a phrase cannot stand alone as a sentence, so the question arises in the mind, so what is basically the function of this phrase? It has got a very important function in the English language, because these phrases sometimes they act as big nouns, sometimes they act as adjectives, sometimes they act as adverbs. They describe the other main noun, they describe the other main verb. So that is why these phrases, they have got multiple other types as well. For example, noun phrases are there, adjective phrases are there, adverbial phrases are there, prepositional phrases are there. But today we are not going to discuss the types of the phrases. Today our concern is only the phrase. So what we have learned about the phrase? So any combination of word without a proper subject and a verb and without any meaning, that is basically called a phrase. So along with the phrase, the next comes as the clause. So what is basically a clause? Clause, you saw the example of the clause as well. What you notice, you might have noticed that the clauses are basically the complete sentences. Yes, it basically has a subject and a verb both, and it expresses a complete thought. So there are next the two types of the clauses, the independent clause and the dependent clause. We are not going to discuss these in the independent and dependent clause in detail today. We are going to discuss them in the next class. But for your concern, I'm just telling you that the any combination of words having a proper subject and having a verb and conveying a whole meaning, that is basically called a clause. So next, what we are going to do is, because of today we are not learning about the clause, but we are not just learning the definitions of the phrase or the clause, but also we are learning to see the difference between the phrase and the clause. So here is a small table in front of you all, which basically is going to summarize the difference between the phrase and the clause. And after seeing this table, you people will be able to understand the difference, and you people will be able to tell you can say you people will be able to identify the phrases and the clauses within a sentence. Okay, so here is a quick the slide of the difference between the phrase and the clause. The phrase, it has got no subject and no verb, whereas the clause, it contains a subject and a verb. Phrase, it does not convey a complete idea, whereas a clause expresses a complete idea. phrase, it cannot stand alone as a sentence, whereas the clause, it can stand alone as a sentence in any text. Okay, students. So I hope you have understood the concept of phrase and the clause, and you have also understood the difference between the phrase and the clause. So we are quickly going to check how much of you have understood. Okay, so on the table, what do you think? You are going to use P for praise and C for clause. So what do you think on the table? What is it? Is it a phrase or a clause? Obviously, it's a phrase. The dog barked loudly. It's conveying a complete meaning. The verb is there, the subject is there. Okay, so it is a clause. Before sunrise, obviously, a phrase, no subject, no verb, because she was tired. This is an example of a dependent clause, which we will discuss next, inshallah ta'ala. So here, but you just need to focus this thing that there is a verb and there is a subject. Sorry, there is a subject and there is a verb. And for this, we can say it is a clause. So after practicing it, now it is the time for you to apply the knowledge which you have just gained into the real life situations. There are the sentences in front of you, and you people are going to tell these underlined words whether they are the phrases or the clauses. The manager approved the proposal after carefully reviewing all the documents. Obviously, it's a phrase. What she said during the meeting surprised everyone. So what is it? Yes, this is a clause having a subject. The scientist who discovered the new element received an international award. What is it? It is again a phrase. Yes, good job, students. You did really well. So we are almost done with today's lesson. What you people need to do is you have to take any piece of paper and write one example of phrase and one example of clause in your own words, and later we are going to discuss whether you have written the right one, and if still there is any difficulty, we will discuss it in the class. So students, for your homework, I'm also going to share practice worksheet with you. You people will do it at your home time. And if you still feel any difficulty, we will discuss it tomorrow, inshallah ta'ala, in the class. So this is all for today. I hope you have enjoyed the lesson. And if there is any confusion or difficulty, you can ask me later. Thank you, students. Allah Hafiz.